Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, it's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap. As you guys know, I don't like to spend too long with introductions because I just want to get straight into the action that happened on Monday Night Raw this week. So let's just jump straight into what happened. Monday Night Raw this week kicked off with Drew McIntyre making his way out to the ring and welcoming everybody to Monday Night Raw. He says that he feels as though everyone has very much lost their mind and they are losers, hypocrites, and complete cowards. Idiots who can get fired, released, and leave and then just magically be forgiven. Whereas with his actions, it's a little bit harder for him to be forgiven for why he's acting that way. Drew McIntyre follows on by saying that Seth Rollins pulled a fast one on him by getting a match scheduled between him and Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship this week, basically taking the opportunity away from Drew McIntyre, and he said he can't think of somebody who doesn't deserve it more than himself, and obviously he thinks that Jey Uso doesn't deserve it and says, Jey Uso, your time is coming. Sami Zayn makes his way out to the ring and starts off by saying that, you may as well say it to my face if you're out here talking about all these different people. Drew McIntyre started off by talking about Seth Rollins and Jey Uso, and he was going to eventually start talking about Sami. Sami went ahead and said, hey, if you want to say something, you may as well just say it to my face. Drew McIntyre goes ahead and says that you are the one person who deserved what happened to you. And you got screwed over by the bloodline. You were their errand boy. You were their lapdog. What did you think was going to happen? Sami follows on by saying that, I used to think that we were alike and that we had very similar paths to get to where we are, but unfortunately, we aren't alike anymore. And he said, when I got embarrassed in front of my entire family in Elimination Chamber when I had my match with Roman, I picked myself up and I went ahead and main evented WrestleMania, and he said that he made his family proud and asked, what did you do to make your family proud? Now, this ticks within Drew McIntyre's mind, and you can see him completely shift his focus. He goes from talking to Sami about what's happened to suddenly calling for a ref to come into the ring. They actually had a match scheduled for this episode of Monday Night Raw. So it's nice to see that this promo segment actually made its way into storyline and made its way into the match. So a ref comes out and they ring the bell and the match starts happening straight away. Drew McIntyre is on a rampage. He hits a belly-to-belly slam on Sami. Sami ends up slamming Drew McIntyre into the ring post and then dives over the ring ropes. We go to a commercial break where in the comeback from the commercial break we see Sami Zayn is very much in control and he chops and moonsaults Drew McIntyre. We see Drew hit a really nice clothesline, following up with some chops to Sami Zayn. Then we end up seeing Drew just completely punishing Sami, and there's a moment where Sami hits a really nice suplex, but there's also another moment where Sami ends up tweaking his ankle and his knee in some way, shape or form, which we end up seeing Drew McIntyre realise this is actually happening throughout the match, and he starts to target this as well too. We see a really nice DDT coming in from Sami Zayn. This is followed up by a really nice neck breaker kip-up combo from Drew McIntyre as well. There's a really nice moment where Drew McIntyre takes Sami Zayn outside of the ring and throws him over the announcer's table. We see Sami Zayn manage to make his way back into the ring and hit a really nice sunset flip powerbomb onto Drew McIntyre. There's a moment where he hits that move and his leg's looking really weak. Drew McIntyre's outside of the ring and he realizes this is something that he can target. So he starts targeting it and then he ends up attacking his leg, ends up hitting Sami Zayn with a really nice claymore to come away with the win. I really enjoyed this match. I think it was great. Both of the men put on a really good performance, and this continues Drew McIntyre's storyline moving forward. We then had a couple of video recaps and video segments backstage, so let's quickly talk about those. We see Byron Saxton wanting to catch up with Shayna Baszler before her match against Nia Jax tonight. Shayna Baszler goes ahead and says to Byron Saxton that she put Nia Jax on the shelf for 2 years and she will do it all again and break her apart limb by limb. Then we had a really nice video package come in for Jey Uso. Now Jey Uso is going up against Seth freaking Rollins later on in the night for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was a really cool video recap showing a lot of moments from Jey Uso, obviously when he was in a tag team with Jimmy, and a lot of his solo stuff going forward. So he said that SummerSlam, the opportunity for him to get the Universal Championship was ripped away from him by his brother, and says that he can do it all again tonight. And he basically talks about how it really upset him that that moment was taken away and he was pretty much done for. Cody went ahead and called him, said you can have a new start and you can start fresh on Monday Night Raw. And, you know, he's found his groove, he found his way, and he said that he's always been fighting for others within his life, but now it's time for him to fight for himself. And he goes ahead and says, you know, this entire time I've been fighting with other people, but right now it's just me, Uso. So I really enjoyed this video segment. I thought it was quite cool. I really liked the time they put into Jey Uso to really hype up this match. Obviously it kind of felt like a thrown together spot last week, but giving it this level of intrigue really helps towards that storyline and helps the match to feel legitimate and like a big fight feel. We had a couple more video backstage segments before we get into the next match, so let's quickly go through those. We got to see a Sami Zayn medical update where he's backstage getting checked over, and then we end up seeing Drew McIntyre coming back in and just continuing to attack Sami. He finishes off by saying he is nothing like Sami, and we end up seeing Adam Pearce come in to call for medical, and we see Jey Uso coming in trying to console his friend. Then we had Byron Saxton trying to get an interview with Becky Lynch, but before he had a chance to ask her anything, we saw Nia Jax come in and straight up ask Becky Lynch, hey, I saw that you had an interview last week where you go ahead and mentioned that you've got a few fights on the horizon. Am I potentially one of them? And Becky Lynch followed on by saying, well, yeah, I could always make you my #1 priority, can bump you up that list a little bit more considering you've interrupted 2 of my interviews now. And said, obviously, I owe you a receipt for something that happened a couple of years back. Nia said, once I squash Shayna Baszler tonight, I'm all yours. Then we go on to the match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Straight away, Nia Jax is just targeting Shayna. She throws her around the ring, but then we see Nia delivering a really nice knee to Nia as well too, which was really cool to see. She tries to do like a triangle armbar. This is Shayna Baszler trying to do like a triangle armbar on the ring ropes as well too, which we end up seeing Nia get out of and hit a really nice sit-out powerbomb onto Shayna Baszler. Shayna ends up driving Nia's spine first into the ring post, and we see Nia getting away from Shayna and then hitting a really nice leg drop. Nia ends up sandwiching Shayna's face into the ring post and then hits a really nice side slam followed by a Samoan drop onto Shayna. Shayna ends up delivering kicks, and then Nia hits a running senton, which is then followed by Shayna hitting a really nice suplex onto Nia. Nia ends up hitting her Annihilator finisher to come away with the win. And we see Becky Lynch come out to the ring to try and get this fight going between her and Nia. Obviously, Nia went ahead and said, once I squash Shayna Baszler, I'm all yours, Becky. So Becky's like, how about we do this now? Nia's leaving the ring. She's very much like, we're not doing this right now. I need to fight you when I'm 100%, this is on my time kind of thing. We had the same video recap segment that we had last week about CM Punk's return at Survivor Series War Games 9 days ago. Obviously, then they included the segment from his promo from last week on Monday Night Raw. If you want to find out what was said in that promo segment, I talked about it in my last video recap for Monday Night Raw, so go check that out because it's very exciting being able to talk about CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. I didn't think that day would ever come. But there's a couple of things here. Michael Cole confirms that CM Punk is now a free agent, and he also confirms that he will be at Friday Night SmackDown this week, which is a Tribute to the Troops episode, very similar to kind of ways they've done it in the past. So he will be there this Friday. That will be quite cool to see. Then we see a segment where DIY is backstage, so Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are backstage talking about their 2 out of 3 falls match with Imperium. We see Indy and Candice run in and they're basically trying to hype up DIY, so Johnny and Tommaso. And then they end up doing this impression of Imperium where they put their arms behind their back. It was quite funny actually. And then we see Imperium come in and they're basically trying to psych out DIY. And Indy didn't get much time in this segment, but she basically went ahead and said like, don't disappoint Gunther, in like an accent. I'm not going to try and do it because I really don't want to butcher it, but it was quite funny. And then we see Ludwig Kaiser go ahead and say to Giovanni Vinci, like, don't mess this up for me. And Vinci follows on by repeating the same sentiment to Ludwig Kaiser. We get into the match between DIY and Imperium. Now, as I mentioned previously, this is a 2 out of 3 falls match, so basically one team just needs to win 2 out of 3 of the falls. Obviously, a normal wrestling match is a 1 fall, but this is a 2 out of 3, so this is exciting to see. So straight away from the very beginning, Ludwig Kaiser and Tommaso Ciampa are both looking really strong, and they're starting off very strong, hustling and bustling with each other. Vinci ends up getting tagged in and is looking really strong, and he hits a really nice running crossbody, which, I mean, Wade Barrett even referenced as a amazing move that he does. We see Ludwig taunting Tommaso, and then Tommaso ends up sliding Ludwig into the corner of the ring. Then we end up seeing Johnny Gargano planting Ludwig Kaiser face first, and he hits a slingshot spear as well too. DIY go for the meet in the middle, and we end up seeing Giovanni Vinci pulling Johnny Gargano out. Imperium get a roll up and they win the first fall. Then we see Tommaso Ciampa stopping Ludwig Kaiser from breaking the roll up that they try and do. And there's a couple of other really cool sequences and moves in there when DIY end up getting the second pinfall. So they're basically 1-1. They just need to get that third one. Then we end up seeing Tommaso face planting both Giovanni and Ludwig. Then we end up seeing DIY double teaming Vinci. And then Vinci hits a tilt the world backbreaker onto Johnny Gargano. Now that was a tongue fall. I've never heard that move referenced before, but that was a really cool move to see. Vinci hits a really nice insane moonsault as well too. Some beautiful sequencing and coming in, and then we're seeing DIY setting up the meet in the middle. We see Vinci pulling out Tommaso Ciampa, and then they set it up again and they get that second out of 3 falls. So DIY wins against Imperium. The match again was fantastic. We've seen matches between DIY and Imperium a couple of times on Monday Night Raw in the last couple of months, but to be honest, they never disappoint. It's always a fantastic match they put on, and I really enjoyed watching this. There's a few more video segments backstage. Obviously, WWE likes to lump a couple of these all in the same little segments, so let's talk about them. We see Tegan Nox and Natalya backstage talking about their tag team match tonight when we see Chelsea Green and Piper Niven come in and try and intimidate them. We see Chelsea Green say to Natalya that Tegan is not your meal ticket, and I actually honestly couldn't agree more with Chelsea Green. I feel as though Natalya very much leeches onto people thinking that this is going to be her meal ticket for everything, but unfortunately I don't think this is going to happen. And Natalya goes ahead and says to Chelsea and Piper that they're basically going to win this match. And the match that they're having is a tag team match between Kayden and Katana, and obviously Natalya and Tegan Nox. Then we end up seeing Michael Cole and Wade Barrett talking about the Creed brothers win in that tag team turmoil match they had last week, which is then followed by the New Day hanging out with the Creeds. The Creeds are squatting the New Day backstage, and the Creeds are talking to the New Day about how we prove that we belong. And Alpha Academy came in and said, like, hey, if you guys want to be ready for Judgment Day, we're willing to extend our services to help you out. We see Ivy come in and she's talking about how she will neutralize Rhea Ripley during that match, and we see Maxine actually getting Akira Tozawa on her shoulders and hitting like some squats, which was really impressive to see. I feel like Akira Tozawa in these segments is always fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, we got to see the Judgment Day backstage. Now they're obviously mad because they end up seeing R-Truth is in their clubhouse. He broke into the clubhouse again. They should honestly invest in some locks at this point, but he's broken the TV. Judgment Day end up asking R-Truth to leave the clubhouse and say they should invest in some locks. Damian Priest is really mad at Drew McIntyre because he's considering himself kind of like Rhea Ripley-esque. He thinks he can do anything and he's higher and mightier than thou and can get away with anything. And Dominic Mysterio goes ahead and says, well, you can't actually do anything. Mommy said, like, nobody touches Drew, like, you're not allowed to do that. Then Damian Priest ends up instructing JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio to destroy the Creed brothers in the match they are having tonight. We are then followed on to the women's tag team match between Natalya and Tegan Nox taking on the team of Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. I really enjoyed this match. Kayden and Katana, I think they honestly need to get more time on TV. I genuinely feel like they are a fantastic, well-established tag team that honestly, they entertain me in everything they do. So straight away from the very beginning, the teamwork between Kayden and Katana is on point. We see Natalya hit a really nice clean jerk press slam kind of sequence movement. I really enjoyed seeing this. This is probably the coolest thing I've seen her do in a long time. And that's a lot of praise coming from me. Obviously, Kayden and Katana are double teaming Natalya, and then Tegan ends up working on Kayden. And I did think she's doing this, but she doesn't realize that, you know, Katana is the legal one. There was like a hot tag that came in and she's working on the wrong person. We see Natalya double teaming Kayden and Katana as well too. It's an awesome finisher coming in. I believe it's their kickstand move that Kayden and Katana set up, and it was really cool to see. So they actually ended up beating Natalya and Tegan. Then we see Chelsea jump on the ring apron and she is trying to distract the ref, and we end up seeing it was either Kayden or Katana, honestly. It literally happened so fast in front of me. But they end up hitting Chelsea Green. So I believe they are going after the tag titles next, which I would really like to see. I feel as though they're a tag team that honestly you could put in that title picture and could have win the titles, and it would make complete and total sense to me. We see Cody Rhodes walking backstage, and he ends up making his way out to the ring after the commercial break. He gets on the mic and he says when he was a young kid he was terrified of the poison mist, and obviously references the Great Muta. He goes ahead and says that his fears as a child were justified as Shinsuke Nakamura misted him last week, and he said, this is very much on me. He should have been paying attention to Shinsuke Nakamura. And he says, Shin, if you are ready, I'm ready. You have my attention. You have everybody's attention. Either one, you can emerge tonight and explain your actions, or two, you can just come out and fight me right now. So then we see Shinsuke Nakamura make an appearance on the Titantron. He says to Cody Rhodes, I made your eyes burn and I will then open them. He says that we have walked the same path, and it shows different video packages of Shinsuke and Cody Rhodes both winning Royal Rumble and obviously going on to wrestle at WrestleMania, and said that he fell into a pit after he lost, obviously comparing the fact they've both lost at WrestleMania, and he goes ahead and says, well, so did you. And Shinsuke follows on by saying that he faced the same humiliation that Cody Rhodes did, and there were many pages left unwritten, and he says that you have awoken me, and he said that he will unburden Cody Rhodes. Shinsuke follows on by saying that he didn't get to finish his story, but he is going to go ahead and finish Cody's story. Cody Rhodes then, after the video segment, gets back on the mic and says, well, thank you for explaining yourself to me, Shinsuke. I don't rate or respect you, and asks if we're on the same page, and he says, you think we're on the same page? Go ahead and prove it. So I'm really enjoying the way that they're building this up. I believe it's going to be a cool feud whenever it starts to kick into gear. I like that they had the similarities between Cody and Shinsuke's achievements in the WWE. Obviously both winning Rumbles, going on to WrestleMania, kind of having very similar paths. So I'm liking that Shinsuke Nakamura's moves and motives actually have reason behind them. After this, we see Adam Pearce is backstage and he catches up with Jey Uso before his match against Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is happening in the main event. And we see Jey Uso going ahead and asking Adam Pearce, how is Sami Zayn doing after that attack? And he says that if this continues to happen, he will have to just go after Drew McIntyre again. Then, obviously, Adam Pearce is hyping up Jey Uso leaves, and Gunther comes in and asks for a little bit of Adam Pearce's time because he wants to discuss some things. After this, we had the match between the Judgment Day and the Creed brothers. Now, straight away from the very beginning, Dom and Brutus start off the match. Brutus hits a really nice vertical suplex, and we actually see R-Truth coming out, and he's trying to support the Judgment Day and get on the Judgment Day side, and Michael Cole or Wade Barrett, one of them actually references that, does R-Truth think he's a part of Judgment Day? I thought that was quite funny. Brutus hits a fireman carry onto JD, and then JD ends up overpowering Brutus. After this, we end up seeing the Creed brothers double teaming JD McDonough, and they're rolling him in the middle of the ring and kicking him back and forth, which was quite cool to see. Then we see JD hitting his really cool moonsault, and then the Judgment Day end up double teaming the Creeds. Dominic Mysterio tries to hit the three amigos. He gets to the second one, and then we see Brutus end up reversing this into a suplex onto Dominic Mysterio before he gets a chance to hit that third amigo. R-Truth is just cheering on the Judgment Day, which I thought was really funny. He's sitting ringside with one of those NFL championship title belts, which was quite cool to see. Then we see Julius Creed coming in hot, and he's obviously been waiting on the ring apron for a long time to come in, so he's coming in with all guns blazing and he's looking fantastic. He ends up flinging Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough around in the ring, and we see a Brutus Ball coming in for the Creeds to come away with the win. No, this was not a match for the tag team titles, it was the contender match. So it's really interesting to see the Creed brothers beating the Judgment Day. I feel as though if this was a tag team title match, they would have just won the tag titles, but that's okay. After this, we get the Randy Orton SmackDown segment from last week recap. Now, obviously, the bidding war of 2024 happened early. It happened with Randy Orton, not with MJF. We got to see Randy make his decision where he signed the contract for Friday Night SmackDown. After this, we see Seth Rollins is backstage and he catches up with Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce goes ahead and makes the announcement that he has invited CM Punk next week to Monday Night Raw, and he wants to sign him to an exclusive Raw contract. Seth Rollins starts laughing and says to Adam Pearce, when CM Punk finally shows up and he shows his true colours and this all blows up in your face, do me a favour and stay out of my way when I do what I have to do. which obviously there's a lot of tension going on between CM Punk and Seth Rollins. There has been for a very long time, and if they bring it to stage, it's going to be great to see. After this, we see Jey Uso coming in, and he's quickly catching up with Seth Rollins before their match. Jey Uso's really excited. He says, "This is my night. I'm going to be the new World Heavyweight Champion, and I've been waiting 15 years for this." Seth Rollins turns this on to Jey Uso and says that I'm going to stomp your face into the mat the first chance that I get. Jey responds by saying, "I'm going to kick your face into the mat the first chance that we get." So they fist pump, and we end up seeing them disband. The Judgment Day is backstage. This is JD and Dominic Mysterio, and we end up seeing Damian Priest coming in and asking, what happened? And JD responds by saying, go blame Truth. He was the one who interrupted. But Dominic Mysterio comes to admit that the Creed brothers are the real deal, and that the Judgment Day does need to be concerned about the Creed brothers when they go up against them for the tag titles. We had the main event, which was Jey Uso challenging Seth freaking Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, straight away from the very beginning, there are a lot of CM Punk chants throughout the entire match, and they do trickle on through the entire match as well too. So straight away from the very beginning, Seth and Jey are both hustling for position. They're both pushing each other, being really strong. We end up seeing Jey end up getting the advantage on Seth and hitting him with a shoulder tackle. We see Seth Rollins go for the stomp very early, but Jey Uso avoids it. We see them both face off, and we go to the commercial break. After the commercial break, we end up seeing Seth Rollins kicking Jey Uso in the head, and then he ends up hitting 2 moonsaults on Jey Uso as well too. Seth ends up kicking Jey's back, and then we see Seth Rollins hit a really nice back suplex onto Jey. Jey follows on in the match by ending up by hitting a floating neck breaker onto Seth Rollins as well too. He also hits a really nice backbreaker as well. And we see Seth Rollins hit a really nice step up enziguri onto Jey Uso. We see Jey hitting a really nice DDT, which I'm not going to lie is very crisp. This was hit on Seth Rollins outside of the ring. We end up seeing both of them hit a really nice double crossbody on each other. Rollins ends up hitting a sling blade later on in the match and follows this up by a superplex into the Falcon Arrow into the pedigree. Jey Uso hitting a really nice Uso spear, which then Seth Rollins ends up hitting a buckle bomb, and Jey Uso hits a splash. We end up seeing Seth Rollins hit the stomp for him to come away with the win, so of course Seth Rollins retains. I didn't expect any less, but Jey Uso put on a really good performance and definitely solidified himself as main event Jey Uso. Drew McIntyre just run into frame and ending up claymoring Jey Uso. He ends up getting caught in the air by Seth Rollins, so Seth Rollins dives over the ring ropes to end up hitting Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre ends up throwing Jey Uso over the table and is just yelling at him, being like, "This is what you wanted, this is what you deserve." So Drew McIntyre is fully snapped. Not gonna lie to you, the man has fully snapped. And with that, that is the end of the Monday Night Raw recap for this week. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure you go ahead and like and comment on the video. Go ahead and put something in the comments about what your favourite part of Monday Night Raw was. While you're there, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification so you can be notified when we upload a new video. We've got the NXT review coming in from Reese this week, as well as a podcast on Thursday. We will be doing our early Royal Rumble and early WrestleMania predictions for next year. Kind of fantasy booking it. I've been waiting for this episode for a long time because I love fantasy booking. I really enjoy coming up with different match cards and stipulations. I really thoroughly enjoy it. We've also got the SmackDown review coming in this week, as well as the week in review of AEW. Make sure you go ahead and check the description for all of our personal social medias so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on here. But with that being said, I gotta get out of here. I'll see you guys in the podcast. Bye guys.